By the way, you guys got the recording for that other one. One of you guys did, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I put
he
it up in the group.
yeah,
Oh,
it's shared in
awesome.
the Visionaries. All right. I think, let's see. There we go.
We live?
I think we are live. We are live. Welcome, 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 everybody. It is so great to see each and every one of you. Welcome to episode 82 of the podcast Unlimited Wisdom with Robert Hollis. And as we get started, thank you for hitting the like button and sharing this podcast with your family and friends. Also, if you have not done so already, please hit the subscribe button so you become part of our channel and our group and our community so that you get information that we keep sharing on a regular basis, very much weekly. And thank you again. I'm Craig A. Jackman, and let me go ahead and bring on our other two people here on this Unlimited Wisdom podcast, Matt Hollis and Robert Hollis. Welcome, gentlemen.
What up,
Let's
guys?
Hey,
get
Craig.
this started.
Well, first of all, I just want to say to everyone, Good Friday, for those of you that believe. I got up this morning and seen on the calendar, it said Good Friday. And then I was like, Good Friday, I wonder what that really is. And so I go on to AI. And for certain religions, this is the belief that their Messiah, was crucified on this day. And I thought, wow, that's good. That's good that someone was crucified today.
It's good if you're a sinner.
Yeah. Especially if he sacrifices for one's sins.
And not only unlimited wisdom, but I'm always this concept of how do you know that? And it is pretty interesting that someone said, "Well, we'll call this Good Friday," and it's like, wow, what's good about it? You know what I mean? It is pretty funny. And then, there's other people that believe that other people basically, died on this day, depending on the religion that you believe in. But for those of you that do believe or don't believe, Good Friday to you. I hope everything's going great. And mom and I, Terry and I, my wife, just got back from Sedona, Arizona. I've never been there before, and it is pretty interesting to see how beautiful and everything it was there. And I also got my eldest son, Robert Hollis Jr. He came over with Amy, his wife, and our two grandchildren, Ryder and Olive. And Olive just turned 9, I think.
Oh, it's been that long.
And it was pretty neat because her and Ryder did not know that I was going to be there. So that was really, really cool. She loves going to Sedona, and they went there and they came around the corner after parking their car, and I was standing there, and it was neat to see them. And the funny thing about the whole story was I kept looking at Olive and Ryder, and they would just be staring at me. And I would be looking at them. I go, "What are you staring at? You look and act just like our dad."
You're like, you mean he looks and acts like me? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I was here first.
I was here first. You know what I mean? And but I really looked at that as an incredible compliment. They were like, writers like, golly, the same dad jokes. And I was going like, wow, Robert Hollis Jr. is 43. April 6th for him, and it's like it is pretty neat. I guess maybe some of the best duplication that can happen is if someone wants to follow in someone's footsteps, whether it's a parent. I think that everybody wish it would be a parent. But in times like this, I just wanted to bring up that positive stuff because, I just think it's very, very interesting, again, that we're personally responsible for what we're focusing on. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And more times than ever, there's again these two groups of people. Well, I always say three. And the reason I say three is I always know there's a group of people that just are okay with being unaware, and they have no interest in ever being aware. This is just like, hey, this is the way things are. This is the environment that I was given, and I'm gonna do my best with that. And I think there's a little bit of what would you call it? A little bit of zenness in that. You know what I mean? My youngest son, of course, Matthew's here. But my youngest son, that's what we've always called him. He's sort of like a monk. He stays in his own zone. If I ask him what's going on in his life, it's usually what he wants going on in his life. He doesn't allow a lot of stuff outside of himself to even bother him. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares? And then, of course, the other two groups of people that are, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, seem to consistently be irritated and frustrated and upset with them just constantly focusing on all the worst things in life. You know what I mean? I watched a small YouTube video which really, really got me, and he was going, these are twin sisters that were broken up from birth. They were separated at birth. And he showed these two sisters, and one of them looked like they were in their late 90s, and the other one looked like they're in their 40s, and they're twins. And then they asked them, very, very simple, what do you think about your life so far? And the one that looked 90 just went, my life has been hell. Fucking hell. And they went to the one that's younger, and it's like, how's your life been so far? I'm the luckiest person that's ever been on this planet. Everything goes great for me. And you sit there and you go, wow, and you take identical twins and they're separated from birth, to do two different environments. Damn. And I usually say that all the time with me and my brothers, not to throw my brothers under the bus, but it's, my life's been, a lot of people that know me constantly keep saying, like everything you touch turns to gold. And I go, that's, my wish is my command. It's there's the thing that constantly reminds me, the golden lamp that, I wish it to be. And so in the midst of all the stuff that's happening, that's the little quick update on where I've been and how excited I am about the future. What's going on with you guys?
Craig, you wanna go next?
Well, I'm kind of still working on at least besides, what we do here, because this is very important to me. Absolutely. I'm kind of dabbling with the trading, keeping that up, because obviously we help with people in our trading group, and then the acting part. And I know that that's something that's, it's been a constant. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't end. I enjoy it. It's something that I want to do.
Got any new stuff coming up?
At the moment, no. Right now, okay, for those of you that are out there, I'm looking for an agent. Anyways, but no, it's, just putting things together, trying to get that agent in that vein. And then, the other thing that I really do
difficult? Is it difficult to find an agent? My thoughts would be like they should be advertising everywhere.
They should be, but there's a lot of actors that are out there who are seeking an agent or representation so that they can get work. And
why not just get Brad Pitt's agent?
I'd love that. I'd love it. But, and I'm
like, we've seen Entourage,
Yes, exactly. No, so, it's a matter of getting somebody
available. Is Ari available?
I would love Ari to have to be a part of his group. Yeah, absolutely.
He'd really fight for you, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm looking for, is somebody who will do that. But each person is different. And
Sure.
Each person feels that, you got to have these requirements or those requirements. And I know that, I have what I've got, and I would like to be out there making my, pushing my trade or plying my trade with that. But at the same time, it's not an easy industry, and I already know that. Cool. So, I also look at what we're teaching people here with Imaginators, learning AI. Matt, thank you so much for all of the help that you're doing on that. And again, okay, plug. Imaginators is an incredible program, ladies and gentlemen. So please join us at roberthollis.com/join and become part of our amazing group as we grow and use our imagination to help you move on to the next level, because that is where a lot is going right now, is with your imagination, not being competitive, but being creative.
Yeah. Well, just a middle of that. Someone asked me in Sedona what I was focused on right now. And
Yeah.
I said, I'm creating a community that's called Imaginators. And I said it's going to be a community of millions of people that all help each other. And he goes, what do you think the main thing that Imaginators would do for me? And I said, well, if you can't tell me something that that you recently created that gave you joy from your imagination, then we need to teach you to do that. And he
Oh,
goes, where?
absolutely.
He goes, where do I go? And it's like,
That's
so
great.
I think that people don't even realize that they created virtually everything that's good in their life or bad in their life with imagination. And I think that people just stopped doing it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So thanks, Craig, for the plug. And I'm imaginating an agent for you and good parts for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was gonna say I'll imagine the same for you, Craig, but I don't think you'll need one because I think me and you working together will make something unique
And
happen.
that's what I'm looking
And I,
forward to
yeah,
as
I
well.
think
Yes.
that's the really interesting
Elaborate,
part too.
elaborate, Matt.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I mean, like the gatekeeping aspect of Hollywood and acting and all of those things are about to deteriorate, and so since that's in the process of happening, I obviously have been one of the people that's like, give me a hammer, you know what I mean? Like I'll be in the front, you know what I mean? And I think the interesting aspect about that is that it takes, in my opinion, like a very unique person to have that mentality that like the system's broken, you need to fix it. But it's not necessarily like that thought.
Like
I
you
was watching
explained
this
with,
one,
like you explained with Walt Disney. It's like
yeah. I'm
everyone
showing
was
you something better. I'm not
yeah.
destroying something and recreate and trying to
Right.
fix it.
You're taking
There's
where we're at this moment and moving it forward.
Yeah, I mean honestly I feel like I'm making something new. Like there's
Yeah.
something
Yes.
right. And so since that's the case, there's going to be like anytime you create something new, there's going to be a large amount of people that go, this is not okay, this is not right, this is not the way that it's supposed to be. And I think like obviously there's a group of people that resistance is really going to affect them. They're
Which is not a new feeling for them.
no, no, no. Like
Or
I
for everybody in general, because those
right.
people, whatever's new is uncomfortable. And until they get
Yeah.
comfortable with it,
People that live in
yeah.
resistance have a tendency of living in resistance.
Well, that's kind of what negativity can be is like
Yeah.
that's it's
Yes.
just resistance and when you know here's like a really good way to look at it. At least is the way that I look at it, right? Like if I'm in the front of an army that I'm leading, right? And we're running into the other army. I am not stopping until the last soldier is dead and until there's multiple arrows in my back and I fall to the ground.
Right.
So if that's the case and that's the mentality that's the person I believe that I am, then I got to prove that to myself. And to prove that
Yes.
to myself, I have to be resilient and have
Yeah.
to fight against that resistance because every single day it's going to be very easy for me to make the decision to go, things are just going to become easier in this way, or I could just wait. There's a million different things that you could do. You know what I mean? And it's like,
I think
I
it's
think
interesting you talking about AI and then the word resistance comes up again. No, it's like,
yeah. Well, I mean,
a part of the
definitely don't
resistance.
resist. You know what I mean? Like, and you'll be
Well, look at
okay.
when cell phones started to come out and everybody was, kind of like, no, no. I mean, I was guilty about that, especially when it came to banking and using an ATM, if I'm going to go back a little further. I mean, no. I'm going to write my check. I'm going to date my check. I'm going to put the reason why. I'm going to keep track of all of these checks as they build up. No, not anymore. And it's because of this, revolution.
You ever
I
see
guess,
too, like Craig, the hindsight, right? So
yeah.
I have probably written 5 checks in my entire life. The checks that I've had to written sucked. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to Google how to even write one, and it was for rent
How many times have
until
you
I moved to
signed your
California.
signature? How many times have
Well,
you
I've signed my
signed?
signature a lot, but that's like business stuff. But
Right.
on a check, those times, and it was always for rent, right? And it was because
Yeah.
we were renting from a place that didn't have some automated online payment processing, right? And so those are the times that I did it. But what's really interesting about checks is there's this film that I adore by Steven Spielberg called Catch Me If You Can,
Yes.
with this guy Frank
Love
Abagnale. It's
it.
about his thing.
Great, great
And I'm
movie.
watching this movie, and the whole dude's making millions off forging checks, and then credit cards come out, and then you read up, and all these people are like, don't really trust credit cards. I'm like, dude, do you know how easy it is to forge a check?
I
Do you
know.
know how little amount of transactional idea goes into it? How many steps have to happen for someone to go, wait a minute, something's wrong here, instead of it instantaneously being kicked back, something's wrong. And
Like
so
when
it's
you go
it's
to cash a
interesting.
check in somebody's account that they just don't say, can you give me your 3-digit code? Because that
Right.
didn't exist. So
Yeah.
people are sucking millions of dollars or whatever amount of money out of your account, forging your deal because there's no verification. There's not even like an ID or nothing. I remember back in those days, don't you, Craig? That was like,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
banks did this thing too. They would go, well, we've been taken advantage of. So when I started getting big checks from direct sales companies, I would go to put them in. And when I went to put them in, they would hold my check for 10 days.
Especially if it was over a set amount, right?
Yeah, they were like,
Yeah.
hey, thanks a lot for the funds that your company gave you, but we're not putting them in your account for 10 days.
And we're going to take all the interest from those 10 days and keep it for ourselves.
Yeah,
uh,
the American banking system is really, really interesting, like when you dive into it, because
uh,
it's like every time I look at it, it's like, okay, so the money from the banks is backed up by the United States government, and yet they're allowed to make the interest off the money that you're holding there, even though the government is guaranteeing to them that if they lost your money, that they would get the money back. But you're not going to get the money back. For you to get the money, you have to sue them, and you have to go through a whole entire court system to get your money back.
yeah.
And it's interesting when you think about that process, because it's like, okay, they mess up and there's one phone call. You mess up and it's like,
All these people, we
Uh-huh.
watched the tragic fires in the Pacific Palisades.
Oh
There
gosh,
was
yeah.
there was 11 banks that burnt to the ground, including the safety deposit boxes. Um, Wait a minute. I thought the vault was supposed to be fireproof. I
Mm-hmm.
thought my valuables in a safety. What are you going to call them from now on? An unsafety box?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the
Minute. Where's the fire? Oh, the fire depressants. Where's the sprinklers? Where's the foam? The oxygen? Where's the heat? Not get they showed all the safety deposit boxes, and they're just melted. They're just I'm going like, whoa, what a big. That's another. How do you know that?
Yes.
I have my valuables in a safety deposit box. Really? It's not safe. What are you talking about? I pay money every month to keep them in a safe place. It's not safe.
I'll
yeah,
keep it
we're
in my
we're
mattress.
we're funny in the sense that like we just take people's words for it, especially if there's a couple of people, and it's like that
Yeah.
tends to be the case in a lot of things, and I think that's what the internet's
How do
really
you
like
know
ran
that?
with. But
Yeah.
it's like that's true, right? It's fireproof. Okay, it's fireproof. How do we know that? Well, you'll know it when the fire happens. It's like, all
Exactly.
right, cool, right? And you're like, well, you've tested this stuff, right? And the age-old one is like, all of us are guys here, so condoms are another one, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, guys, here's a situation where this better work, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
You know, if
Right?
that
For
thing
both,
breaks, I
for
mean,
everybody
whoops.
involved, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
in that type
And
of
it does take two
situation,
people, so sometimes there's a needle poked in it. You know what I mean?
well, that's malicious. That's a totally different situation.
Yeah, but that happens, and I will say from experience.
Oh, wow. You want to share, Craig, or?
Wow. Wow. I didn't know you
Well,
even
let's.
had any kids.
No, no, no. I don't have any
It's
kids.
the reason you're here.
Exactly. No, no, no. Where somebody did that to me, and I found out
That's
before
awful.
that happened.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
How the energy shift on this?
No, I mean it,
I know,
but
but
I
well,
find that
I'm just
interesting
you
because
brought it
like,
up.
I did.
But anyways, yeah, no, let's move on from
our
that.
goal is to
That's a part of
entertain people, and I think that's
yes.
entertaining.
That
So,
well,
I do
unfortunate,
too.
even though it's like unfortunate that that happened to you,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
No, it
So
was, and I'm glad I found out when I did because that was the end of that relationship, pretty much.
yeah, I think that's as
Did,
red of a flag as you need.
Yes.
yeah, and how many more dates did you go on after that?
That's funny.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's like, listen, it's gonna take a couple
Hey,
more
we're
months to get
supposed
out of
to
this
have fun
relationship.
on
No.
podcasts. I don't want to waste a whole hour not having fun. Come on.
Well, I listen, I watch podcasts because they're entertaining and interesting, and that's like why I tend to watch them. And in a lot of situations, I'll just leave it on and I'm not necessarily watching it as much as I'm listening to it. And I think like it always comes down to like what's the most interesting stuff to talk about. And as far as that stuff goes, I like it really is just based off of our own personal experiences and our different
Yeah.
views of them. When it comes to even funny things that have happened to us, I love sharing stuff like that. And I'm the type of person that it's like I come on and I'm like I'll tell you what happened like 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I just like to talk. So with that said, is there anything that's really like been on your guys' minds this week that you want to hop into or talk about? Because obviously, yeah, there's like a lot of political shit going on. You
Well,
know,
It's
that's
been
I
talked to
interesting.
death all the time if you
It
especially
is
watch the news.
interesting, like you said, Matt, me starting at the top of the podcast because of my wife and I's thoughts on traveling. And then, meeting up at an event that happened in Sedona, never being in Sedona. For those of you that have never been there, I highly suggest that you go. It's just all the little shops and their emphasis around the vortex,
Mhm.
and crystals and sort of the metaphysic world is really interesting. I've never seen so many tarot card reading places. You know what I mean? Things that deals
Did
with
you do any of them?
no, no, no. It's like the only reason I've never gone to a tarot card reader is because she should know that I'm coming. You know what I mean? It's like
I knew you'd be here. Yeah. I feel like if I was doing that, that's got to
And
be
her
the
name was
go-to line.
Claire, right? Clairvoyance.
Exactly.
I
Then
always
you know it's authentic.
I always thought all the time, it's like, why haven't you won the lottery yet? I just don't get this. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, hey, you got to be good or you got to be good, right?
Yeah.
But spending time also, I hadn't seen uh, Robert Hollis Jr. and Amy and Ryder and Olive for 3 years. I didn't realize that they made a big deal out of my 60th birthday. You know what I mean? So that's when I seen them last, and God, time just goes by so fast. And and so I was really, really caught up into that. It was funny. We went to I've done this with a number of people, but we actually took Olive and Ryder to a trout farm. A lot of people don't know that you can do this. So there's, me, I don't know if some people will like this, but you either can go out and teach people how to fish where there's absolutely very small chance of them actually catching a fish, or you could do what I've done with Matt and Kyle and other people. It's like, hey, let's go catch a fish. And so you go into a place where there's a trout farm, and what you do is you get a little piece of bait that you put on a hook, and you catch as many as you want, as fast as you want. That it's just a different way of fishing that I think that some people are going like, well, that isn't true fishing. Yeah, by your definition. But if you watch the look on my grandson's face and my granddaughter's face as they caught fish, and they could see fish. And as they're putting the rod and the bait in the water with the hook, they could see them going around the bait. It was like, that's just a little more exciting
Well,
than
it's about the experience anyways. Like I think the
totally,
one of the
totally.
things that I disappoints me, I'll say, about people and the way that they react, especially now that I'm even in the AI world, is this gatekeeping bullshit. And
Yeah.
I not only do I hate it when someone starts doing it to me or to anybody that surrounds me, I actively like just despise them.
Yeah.
Because
Like
if they're
who,
going,
who
oh, you're
died
not
and made
doing
them
it this
God?
way,
Who
you're
died
not
and
doing
made
it
them
that
God?
way, you'd be so much happier if you did it the right way. It's like, okay, I understand that your perspective of the right way is based off of your experience, but the truth of the matter is apparently you haven't had the experiences in life that have made you understand. I don't give a shit about your experience. So I don't know how many more
Hey,
times that needs
there's
to
a
be taught
clip
to you
right there.
by Earth and by humanity. But no, you have to get me interested for me to give a shit about your experience. I
Yeah.
don't actively do that,
Right.
and neither does anybody else. So since that's the case, I perceive things that way when people comment
Yeah.
in a negative way, or when they now, and maybe it's the leader part of me, but when they do it
Right.
to other people as well. But it's like, man, dude, okay, so in the fish thing, it's like, well, you didn't take them and teach them how to really fish. You didn't do this or that or whatever. It's like, okay, if my goal was to teach them how to fish, then yes, I would have done that. But my goal wasn't to teach them how to fish. It was to have a fishing experience with my grandchildren.
And a story.
Yeah.
And we had that. So
Yeah.
since it
And
wasn't
even
your way, we didn't have
the experience even got better. You took all the fish that were in a bucket and you walked up to a window and
and they gutted them for you.
you handed them to somebody that did all the stuff that's necessary to them, including put them on ice in a bag to give to you so you could go home and cook them if you so desired. It's like
Which I definitely would because they're probably really good.
yeah, but around a 9-year-old girl, taking a knife and gutting a fish and cutting its head and fins off, that might be like a less experience.
No, but
Hey,
you
You're
know
like,
what
wow,
it
I just,
does is
we
it's
caught
so
this
funny that
fish.
you say that because that was my experience. But
Yeah,
but I'm a boy. Not to say that girls can't experience that too, but it's like it's funny because
yeah.
now that I'm
Matt's experience was, hey, you caught the fish. Now what? Here's a little bat.
yeah.
Smack him in the head.
yeah,
Yeah, that's legit
and
the
set
next
them
thing you got to
aside and
do.
put them on ice so that you can do that. Yeah, fillet it later.
And legit, people see that and they go, "Holy shit!" But then they have no problem ordering salmon at the restaurant. You know what I mean?
None.
Like I
Zero.
think that that's kind of what I'm talking about too. Is it's like even the hypocrisy, and I'm not going to go into politics because that's just a waste of time. But like
Totally.
the hypocrisy of somebody saying like, you have to experience something a particular way or else you haven't experienced it. We're
Bullshit.
in the parenting world now,
Bullshit.
right?
Yeah.
So now there's a whole group of moms. Formula can't do that. Breastfeeding is the only way. If you don't breastfeed your kid, you're failing as a
Yeah.
mother, right? And that's some people's opinions, right? And so it's interesting because I've had people reach out to me, even family, and go, I saw this thing that I thought I really should share with you because I know you're having a child, and it's about how important it is to breastfeed and how severely damaging it can be to a child's mind if you choose formula over breastfeeding. And then I responded back and I said, "Hey, guess what? I wasn't breastfed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. So my mom didn't I wouldn't do it. She ended up
Matt
switching to
Matt said
formula.
Matt said no titty. No
Not
titty.
for me at that time, right? I needed a decade or
You need
two,
something
not two,
before
but you
you
know what I
get
mean? I had
there.
some time.
Yes.
But in that situation, it was really interesting because I let them, knowing full well, I let them rail into formula and how bad, and it's better now than it was when I was a kid,
Oh, hell yeah.
right?
Yes.
So rail into formula and why you can't do all these things and all this shit like that. And then I'm like, listen, dude, I'm working with you in your business and you're trusting me. I think it might be a good idea for you to know that I was on formula. I don't know if that I don't know if that hurts your thoughts of your business being a success now,
Yeah.
but I'm a
Yeah.
formula kid, dude.
I never even
Everything
thought.
you've seen was done with the grace of formula. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. No. So,
All my genius and working with AI and getting 4 million plus views. What do you get? 1 million views a day on your YouTube channel? It's all from
like
formula.
300,000.
I never even thought about it. You should maybe like reach out to some of the formula companies and just say, hey, listen, I'm one of the people that are actually made it because of formula.
I'll do it. I'll do the interviews, after a certain
Yep.
point because I think it's just interesting, but that's what I mean about the lived experience and the hypocrisy of people not understanding other
Yes.
people's experience. And that in my mind, either they haven't sat down with themselves long enough to understand that people don't care about their opinion in that way, or like it's just an interesting thing because
What is that? Yeah.
for people to give that opinion immediately means it's like you haven't had that, like I said, you haven't had that moment in life that you realized you were blabbering on and nobody was listening
Yeah.
Right.
because
It's not
Why?
about
you should.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird. I recently seen a podcast, believe it or not, and there was someone on there, not to get into too political or whatever, but this guy said to this girl, he was my age, and so some of you will probably guess it, but you probably won't because he's not. If he's from Europe, and he said, in my day when I went to school in London, there was a label for me because they didn't understand a person could be dyslexic. And he said, my label from the time I understood it was I was a retard. Okay. If you look up the basics of that word, it just very simply means not normal, a little retarded. And when I first heard the phrase years ago, we do it with timing on engines. So to get a motor to run perfect, you're either advancing the timing or retarding the timing. They never ever told us that we couldn't use that.
Hmm.
So if it's running on top dead center at 0 degrees, if you go right behind that, that's retarded. That's
Hmm.
retarded timing. Look it up, right? So what this guy was saying to this group of people that were in there is he says, I understand by your resumes that you want me to address you a certain way. And he goes, I refuse to do it unless you refer to me as being retarded. And they go, I'm not going to do it. And he goes, then I'm not going to do it. He's like, he goes, I grew up retarded. I went to special classes and had special teachers that taught retarded kids. And now I look at my life and man, I'm glad they were able to diagnose it. And I'm glad that I got to hang around special people that cared about advancing my education and getting me to be able to socially adapt to certain situations. I didn't have to go through life being disadvantaged because they were able to find out that I was retarded and they put me in special classes. But yet people like you won't address me at that because someone else told you that you can't address me that way. But I'm okay with you calling me that. And they're going like, I'm not going to do it. But you want me to address you the way you want to be addressed? Fuck off. And he wasn't doing it. You could tell he wasn't doing it as a way just to make a point. He goes, I'll put you on the phone with my grandma and my grandpa, my teachers. I'll put you on the phone with my mom and dad. Nobody had a problem. Someone say, hey, you want to read this book? And people would go, he's retarded. And I wasn't offended by it. But someone told everyone in the world that we no longer can use a word that I identify as. Who the fuck are you? How important do you think you are to not address people the way they want to be addressed? And she's going, I just refuse to do it. I go, then guess what? But I love that you brought that up, the hypocrisy of that, because
Hmm.
I know that some people might listen to this podcast or the guy that did the podcast that we're talking about, and they're going, "You don't have the right to say that name." But I related to them because they didn't know what I had.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic. And they were just like, hey, we hold up a cue card that has the word thumb on it, and he does not pronounce the TH. He doesn't see the H. So now, if I can't see the word and I can't say the word and I can't enunciate the word, I'm special. And I always love making the joke all the time that when I grew up, everyone says, "Wow, Robert, you act like you're so special." And it's like, yeah, because I was told that from the time I could understand the English language. Everybody said I'm special. And I knew that. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not told they're special enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like, I think the truth of the matter is like figuring out for yourself what it is, and also to talk a little bit about like language and words in general. You're gonna have, like, you're allowed in the United States to say whatever you want. You could say whatever you want. Could do not can't do whatever you want, but if you want to get on a live right now and say every slur, every word you wanted, you could say it, and the repercussions of that will be what they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So society constantly moves and makes decisions based off of the status quo of the time, right?
Right.
Certain. So when I go visit a great grandparent in the nursing home and they call people coloreds, I don't correct them and say, "Grandma, you're not supposed to say that," because I know it's never going to work. I know that she's
Right.
going to keep saying it. You know what I mean? Um, the interesting thing about that is I think because of the generational change that certain words do evaporate because
Yeah.
the next generation's
And
maybe
not
not
a
going to
bad
say it as
thing.
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but at the same time, it's just a matter of how the word is used in the English vocabulary, and how, whether, I think most of the time it's whether it's like being used as a verb or a noun, you know. So like that's more than anything. It's like, are
I
you
don't
making a
even, I couldn't even tell you the difference between a
well,
verb.
it's like an action or a statement, you know what I mean? So like if
Or an item.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if that's the case, you're putting yourself in a position where I don't know. If you're in a position where you're saying something to somebody or calling somebody something, I would probably like take a beat and think about it no matter what word it was,
Good point. Great.
regardless of
Well,
what it is.
regardless of
But
it,
if
because
you're
words
explaining
can,
something
yeah,
or making a statement about something and it's not malicious, then I think certain words are okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think insincere racial words are okay.
No.
But I come from a place where those aren't part of my vocabulary anyway, so my mind doesn't go there.
True.
I wasn't raised around those words, and it's not part of my vocabulary, right? So, on the other hand, I was raised on the internet and I am a millennial. So the word retard has been in my life around for my whole life. Like, I can go on an online game without being called that word, you know what I mean? And having
Really?
everyone else say it.
Really? I didn't
So
know
to
that.
this day, I was playing games last night and I was in a dungeon group in a game I like to play, and someone made a mistake and some dude railed into him saying you're retarded, all the things you could imagine, right? That on top of other stuff. And he won't get banned for it. Nothing will happen. But that's just because if you guys even went on like Twitch and stuff, retard has made a resurgence because now they just call it a gamer word. It's just a word that you use in the terms of like it's a slur, but it's a slur in the gaming community, like you're bad. So
So it
this is an
means
interesting
something.
thing. The word has now
well,
Oh,
changed.
it's all about the cultural side of whatever the word is. I mean, when you
I brought
see,
it up like the next generation, right? So for
yeah,
them, my connection to it and then your connection to it is going to
absolutely,
matter
it's
zero.
totally different.
Their connection to it will be based off the streamers that are now using it as a
wow.
slur against other. So they have no connection to it being any of the other elements, the education aspect, any of that
I
aspect.
I'll tell
remember.
you
That's
one that I
possibly already
found
been
out.
whittled out too. You know what I
One
mean?
that
Wow,
I
So
found
man.
out when I
Thanks.
went
something
to
to think about.
England was the word faggot. And okay, I'm going to be just brutally honest here. Obviously, here in the United States, that is a derogatory term. However, in Britain, it's a cigarette. So when somebody came up to me when I was in Britain and they said, "Hey man, you want to drag on a fag?" I had to go, what? Or you want a cigarette? Oh, is that what that is?
I just assume that British people say it to Americans just to see their initial reaction
I'm sure they
first.
do too, but
Yeah.
apparently
Yeah.
Which,
that's part of the colloquialism or part of the culture that they were raised with, where they take it one way and where we take it another way.
I
well, it's
remember
like
the
this
first
the
time that
C
I
word
heard someone.
anywheres in you know
Oh, you mean
Australia,
see
New
you next
Zealand.
Thursday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I remember the first time in my lifetime that I heard someone, skateboarders, be my oldest son, he was a
Hmm.
rollerblader, and someone did a trick and they went, "Oh my God, that was bad."
Yes, that's another
And,
one.
and I just immediately looked at my son and I said, "I thought that was a pretty good trick." I go, "I didn't see anything bad about it." And he just started laughing. And he's going, "Well, the word bad means the opposite." And I'm
Yep. Every
like,
When
generation
it's
"That's
gets their
said
own.
brilliant.
that
That's
way. Yeah.
brilliant. That's
Yes.
Good
Every
Friday.
generation gets their
Good
own, and then
Friday."
they'll
So we're going to
take the
call it Bad
words.
Friday now?
Exactly. They'll take the words that we've used and they'll repurpose them in the way that works for them. And then
Mm-hmm.
we'll be mad at them for changing them for the rest of our lives. So we die and then they'll do the same thing over again because that's how it's always worked, right?
Fat's another
So,
one.
Yeah.
PHAT versus FAT.
well, I mean, man, dude, like one of those crazy things because I was a kid when it was happening, but you ever watch like reality TV from the 2000s and people just did not give a shit about what they said to people's faces, the way that they affected them mentally, anything. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there was
It was
whole
verbal
makeover shows
warfare.
about how ugly somebody was. Like, man,
Yeah.
we're all going to compete because listen, you're all ugly, so we're all going to compete on which one of you is the ugliest. And then once we figure out as a million plus person audience who we're going to vote for as the ugliest person, you're going to have millions of people vote you as the ugliest person. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take you and we're going to bring you to a place where we're going to do hundreds of thousands of dollars of plastic surgery and change everything about the way that you look. But we're not going to show you because here's the fun part, right? You don't get to decide of the way that you look, right? Because who
Oh,
gives a
yeah.
shit about that? It's more about the way that the world perceives you than it is about you, right? So let's take you and change you into somebody that the world would perceive as attractive. And we're not going to let you see that. You don't get to decide that. And then you'd see people show up and then they look completely different, right? Or a little bit different. Plastic surgery was only so good at the time. It's gotten better in some areas and worse in some others, right? But the interesting thing about that is you watch old reality TV like that and you go, how could human beings be so malicious, man?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just 20 something years, 30 years ago
Yeah.
almost. You know, I was just a young kid, but I remember watching some of these reality TV shows.
That's crazy, man.
Now you'd be
Oh.
canceled or you'd be banned from YouTube for doing any of these things,
Right.
right? They'd
Mm-hmm.
be called hate speech, all these things. So it's a reminder that every single generation makes a decision what's okay and what's not okay.
Bizarre.
And
And we
the
leave
rules
that with
change.
the previous generations and exactly
And the
what you just
previous
said,
generation
Matt.
is upset about
Right.
it, right?
Because
Like
of these
you guys
changes.
went
Yeah.
I think, what would probably your guys' generation went, I think it would probably be a good idea, you guys, if we actually like let every person, every human being use the same fountain, every person use the same seat, I
Mm-hmm.
think that would probably be a better idea than like separating human beings based off the color of their skin.
Right.
And that was like you got older generation was like, I don't think so, man. We've been doing it this
Right.
way for a while now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. So, like, yes, that
I
happens
want to
every
do
single
a,
time.
because we're talking on that same stuff.
Yeah, one of you guys go.
I love the concept again. How do you know that, right? And how you're raised. So I'm going to give a plug to this because I actually found it on Max and still on HBO. But there's how do you say his name? It's called Assume the Position. It was dubbed back in 2006 to 2007, but it's Robert Wall.
Yeah,
W
Robert Wall. Yes.
WUHL. So
Yeah,
if you look, Craig, and wanted to post it, I want you guys to
I got
watch
it.
this because he's got a section. He's also got a section in the deal at the end. He only did 2 episodes, so it makes it sort of sad. But he would basically and it was to show you the times is he shows every president and he's doing it in a New York university, right? And he shows every president and he says to think that this country's on the whole concept of diversity, you know what I mean, to where everyone can be the best they can be. And then he shows all the presidents and he's going, you see a little bit of diversity here? No, they're all white right. And so it happened to be the time that he brings up in this episode where Hillary Clinton and Obama were running. And he's going like, wow, a black person running for president and a woman running for president? Wow, it's so great that we finally came to this point. And then he goes, not true. And he goes back and shows way back where Frederick Douglass ran for president. He was the first black guy to run for president. And there was a woman also. Now, get this, she ran for president before the women had the right to vote. And we always get these perceived concepts in our mind that we think is true, and they're not. They're not. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was actually a black person that ran for president? No, that was done years ago. That was done years ago. Well, how about the first woman? Now that was done a couple of times. We always make big
Man,
deals.
I'm telling you what, just because you brought him up, I saw a video about, and I'm not to get off topic, but I saw a video with Obama in it, and I'm a millennial, so I grew up in my teenage years, Obama was president.
Got it.
So in a lot of ways, I think when you're a teenager and you're a young adult, whatever president is at that particular time, you like probably remember quite a bit. Then of
Great
course
point. Great
now
point.
I'm gonna remember, well, because they have so much of an impact on culture at that time too.
And your parents and grandparents are talking about it and
Exactly.
Yeah.
arguing about them, and
Right.
They
you're
had the stage at that specific
yeah,
time when you
great
were in
point.
your formative years. You saw them every day, every time on the news or whatever it is.
And
Yes.
I remember at that time being young, being a teenager, and going, holy shit, dude. Like I loved history. I loved reading up on presidents and all different kinds of things like that. But I remember when Obama became president of the United States, and I just remember thinking like, now that that ceiling's been broken, regardless of those things, I'm like, I can't imagine what the next president after that, what the next president after that's going to be, what this experiment's going to turn into, right? And obviously, I'm not going to get too political into it because we went back to old white guys, but but I think it's interesting because when I look back at it, I think when I was a kid, I didn't realize at the time that it like fundamentally broke the way that the system worked. Because I think in a lot of ways, it wasn't even just that Obama had a different skin tone, but it was the way that he did it that was
Yeah.
different. And I think,
He was the first person to get masses, which I mean tens, 20, 30, 50 million people to donate like $5 or $15. Up to that point, it was always which I believe ruined everything, which is the ability of billionaires to be able to put money or millionaires to put money into a system. So when that was passed, but Obama was the first one to go, hey, everyone, I have a dream, you know, uh,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
everyone was going, we can beat the billionaires by all giving 5, 10,
I, I
$15.
almost want to, I
Yeah.
was going to say, I almost want to share because you brought up Citizens United. I almost want to
I
share
was just thinking the exact same
my
thing. Yeah.
conspiracy theory that I've shared with you a couple of times, Dad. Not that I
Yeah.
think it's a conspiracy theory, but me and my dad have gone back and forth about this tariff stuff, right? Because we have these types of conversations. And I think we got to a point where we were both like just having a back and forth about it. And the conversation got to a place where I was like, listen, let's just call it really like what it is, right? Trump and Xi Jinping are on the phone back and forth to each other every single morning, both wanting to be dictators. Sorry if this offends you. It's only been said in public multiple times, but calling each other back and forth, thinking about how far they can collapse the Chinese and American economies to the point that then the people that you're going, oh no, they lost $100 billion today because the economy went down. They were in that row and gave Trump money on purpose. They knew that the economy, this was going to happen with the economy. Why would they do this? They would do this so then they own the largest amount when it comes back up. So what ends up happening is you push everything down to a point that the majority no longer consumes the majority of goods. Then you buy up what goods are left. This could be housing. This could be companies. This could be all different kinds of
Energy,
things.
energy.
Absolutely.
Yes. Say you wanted to own a country, right? As a company. I'm not talking about as a country owning another country. I'm talking about as a company owning a country.
Right.
That would be your best bet, right? To get some people into office that had the ability to, once again, even what I was saying earlier with the AI stuff, take shit no matter what
Yeah.
and have no problem doing it back and forth. And it's like, I get that some people might be like, oh no, that's a conspiracy theory or whatever. It is the case. I just think if you took the time to sit down long enough and thought, is Trump and Xi Jinping in communication consistently with one another? I think it's an absolute yes, in my opinion.
I find it very interesting. I
So then
do.
when
It's
you
very
start
possible.
kicking
Yeah.
around the idea and you start going back and forth and you go, well, oh my God, what are they trying to do? China's just trying to collapse the United States and Trump's helping them with Russia or whatever. You guys are wrong. That's not their goal. That's all a smoke screen, you guys. It's all a smoke screen to get everybody fighting one another. The
Yep.
reality is all of these guys are in cahoots with one another. They realize artificial intelligence is right around the corner. They're investing a large amount of time and energy in demolishing capitalism and the current system of the way that it works, pulling and monopolizing all of the goods out of the economy into a small group of people that then can be overseen with AI utilizing to hold the rest of the impoverished dystopian group of people down
For
as
one
long as
reason.
humanly possible.
For
So
one
that's the
reason,
goal, is
power.
in my opinion.
For one
Yes,
Power.
not
reason,
money.
Yeah.
power.
Yeah,
If
money
if
is
if
not a
if
thing with AI anymore.
AI started, which I believe and Matt believes, I know Craig does too. If you believe in the utopian AI, that is going to remedy a lot of things that humans don't have the capacity to be able to not only create but make happen because of power, because of a place of looking weak or losing money or losing positions, power, whatever. There's a book out there called 48 Laws of Power by Green.
Mhm.
When you understand why people do what they do. When in the Roman Empire or the Spanish, when they were taking over, Britain at one time believed they owned everything in the world. It was all based on power, not money. And it was all about, listen, if you believe in something other than us, then we need to destroy it. Whether it's museum, whether it's music, art, religion, whatever they got to do to get you away from the things that you believe in, so you have to rely on them.
Yeah.
You want to rely on them. So
Well, and
people
they're
still always ask,
yes.
why do we like Gladiator? The reason that we like Gladiator is what people do today with reality TV. Back then, it was the only time where you're sitting in seats watching somebody else fight somebody else or get killed by a lion that you went, my life is not that bad.
Well,
But
yeah.
but here's the point. One wrong decision could make you the next contestant in the arena.
Well, that's what happens when the rules of law no longer. That's what happens in a dictatorship when rules no longer matter.
Yeah,
But
Isn't that Squid Games right there?
yeah, so like absolutely. There human beings are going to do what they're going to do. I'm a human being, of course, so like I try my best to think about what I would do in their position, and that's what I would do.
yeah.
And like that's the truth, you guys. Like I truthfully don't see a world with And this is, you could ask Sam Altman, you could ask Elon Musk, you ask any of these guys, you know, if they see a world with corporate, with economies based off of countries in 20 years, and they would not say yes,
No way. No way.
because the economies are almost not based off countries right now.
Right. And
So
and
they're based
and
off the
whether
companies that are
and
part of
whether
their
you like
economy.
and whether you like the guy that's currently elected or not, for him to step in and say, we're going to rename the Gulf to Gulf of America. We're going to
Trump
take
had to
over
say,
we're going to take over Greenland. You know what I mean? We're going to make Canada the 51st state. And we're also taking back the Panama Canal. It's not that they're bad or good things. I just think, and it's funny, I don't know if you guys heard this, but Bill Maher, got invited to the White House. And so Bill Maher sits down with him and he did a 10-15 minute segment on his show last Friday of his experience with Donald Trump. And I say to everyone, you should YouTube it and listen to it, because there was a guy, I don't remember who it was, but Bill Maher does a podcast called Random. And
Club
this one
Random.
guy, and I think we talked about it on podcast before, but this one guy, Bill Maher's got a little high, probably a couple of drinks, and the guy just out of nowhere
fun.
just went into Maher's face, and he goes, "Have you ever met this guy that you're trashing 24 hours a day?" And Bill Maher goes, "Yeah, I met him twice." He goes, "Can you tell me about your experiences with Donald Trump?" And he goes, "He is not the guy you see on TV. He is not the guy." And
So
anyway,
it,
and
yeah.
so now he's got these two experiences, right? And then he goes to the White House and he kept bringing up all these things that he was confronting Donald Trump with. And he goes, when there's not cameras around and there's not public around, he looked at me right in the eyes and he goes, "Well, tell me why you think that." And then I would tell him what I thought, which is the opposite of what he thinks. And Donald Trump goes, "I've never seen it that way. I need to rethink about how I feel and think about that." And he goes, and he wasn't bullshitting me. He goes, so to see the guy that he portrays in the public arena, and then you're face to face with him with no one around, and he goes, "This guy is the smartest fucking person I've ever met." That he's in these two different realities, that he knows that he can't win among the public. So he says these stuff and he does this stuff and he got everyone's chaos and everyone's talking about him. And then when you're face to face with him and no one's around and he's not putting on a show, because
Yeah.
here's what Bill Maher got mad. And Matt and Craig, I'm sure
Yeah.
that you guys think this right away. And there was a guy that was on his show and he goes, "Anybody out there that thinks I'm stupid enough that someone could just get over on me, you don't know what you're fucking talking about." Because I went in there in the preface that he's not just going to play these games with me. I'm going to talk to him about stuff that is going to razzle him. But he's never met him. He's never spent any personal time with him. So he said the first thing that he did is he had his research department for his show write up every single thing Donald Trump has ever said about him. This Donald Trump sued him because he said that his mom was an orangutan and Donald Trump can't prove it.
Yeah, because of the Obama birth certificate stuff.
Right. So after the research team wrote all these things that he gave to him, he walked up to Donald Trump when he first met him, and he says, "I got something I want to show you." And he handed it to him. And he said Donald Trump started reading it, and he got this funny smirk on his face. And he goes, "Is this all the stuff that I said about you?" And Bill Maher goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Why are you showing me this?" And Bill Maher goes, "Because I want your signature on it." He's like, "Hey, no problem." So he said, the way he set it up and the way that Donald Trump set it up with him is the world's the world. We're in here and no one's around. And we need to find a way to all find things that we have in common to try to make it the best we can. And so when you hear people like Bill Maher that couldn't be more as an adversary to Donald Trump,
Yeah.
meet, meet him personally, and then come out and go, there's something way different going on. I don't know what's going on, but it's not what we see on legacy media and all the little points that they're
Well,
bringing
you
out.
know, Bill Maher probably had the conversation with Trump that a lot of these other people have had, which is not the conversation that me and you get to have.
Right.
And I think like in a lot of interesting ways, if you could see people that are very adversarial to Trump and then they have a one-on-one with them and then they come out of it going, wow, like he's in no way the way that people think he is. He just got another acolyte. And the reason
Yeah.
that he got another
Yeah.
acolyte is not based off of his genuine response.
See,
It's
I
Well, what
disagree
we
with
see
you.
is his genuine response.
I
Is
disagree with
exactly,
you.
exactly.
Because Matt,
I
you bring up
think,
a word to me all the time
yeah.
that I think that people don't want to admit with politicians is the persona. You've
Yeah.
laughed at me a million times because I was telling Matt, hey, I watched this show and it's Ollie G. You guys ought to watch this show. And Matt's like, what are you talking about? And I finally tell him about it. And he goes, Dad, that's a guy playing a character.
It's
I'm
Sacha Baron
going,
Cohen.
what are you talking about? No, this is that guy. Believe it or not, Matt, I don't care what you think or say. That's why people that are pro Trump, they actually see a guy fucking with the world. And they think it's
Yeah.
fucking funnier and shit that they can get people so riled up that he's just this evil guy.
Well,
And it's
yeah,
no,
it's in my best interests. Let's put myself in Trump's shoes. It's in my best interest as president of the United States to not only get you on my side, but believe what I'm doing is right. Right?
correct.
How would I go about doing that?
Fooling the smartest people on the planet.
Exactly. So,
Yep.
if you were going to fool the smartest people on the planet and you were Trump, how would you do it? Because they're not stupid enough to just believe what you say.
Right.
So what do you do?
I guess you prove to the world that you can lie to anybody.
No, you make a deal because they're not going to believe your lies.
Right.
They're liars too. They're good at it. You don't get to that position without being good at it.
Right.
So these people, whether it's Bill Maher or anything, you don't get to that position without lying and figuring the game out. You have to play that game to get there. Even if you're a good person, you still have to play with people that play that game. So you still
Right.
know that game, right? It's like the music industry or anything like that. You're going
Game
to
of
have to touch
Thrones.
hands.
Yeah.
The movie.
So,
Yeah.
so regardless of what people think about Trump, I'll tell you my personal opinion. We can leave it at this.
Yeah.
I think Trump had a real shit time his first presidency run because he actively had the whole entire United States government and system against him. Wasn't really allowed to do any of the things that he wanted to.
Just like Obama. I agree.
Well, somewhat true and somewhat wrong because like I think in
On the
Trump's
whole, it
case, he
seemed
had
to
the
me
whole
like the
media.
whole government was against Obama. He had 77 promises he wanted to do, and you had old white
He
guys
had the
stepping
people,
up.
he just didn't, he wasn't vocal enough about it because he didn't want to cause
Right.
riots and discourse in the people against one another. And he wanted to funnel the energy in the right direction instead of funneling it at one another. Right. So I believe what ended up happening, and you could say Trump cares about people or whatever. I'd say
I
look how
don't
much he cares
know.
about his children. And I'd say that is an
I
example.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say children are a perfect example of the way that a person treats their love of their life, their spouses, and their children says the way that they treat about everyone, in my opinion. So
Okay.
the fact that he treats his spouse the way he does, and the fact that he treats his children the way he does, says enough about him for me personally. Same with Elon, by the way. That doesn't change the fact that they can be geniuses in some ways. Isaac Newton was a
Exactly.
genius as well, and he wasn't married and never had any of those things as well. So where I'm coming from is I think the government, not only did Trump have this situation, but he fumbled COVID so bad. Um, it's not like you could have predicted COVID, but you know, he was in a position where he was getting information from 50 fucking different people at the same time. You have to make a decision as a leader what to make, and half of the fucking people are going to be pissed at you whatever decision you make. So you
Yeah.
open the government, you close the government. Trump made those decisions, guys, not some random other president or person. Trump opened and closed the government. Trump made mass mandates allowed or disallowed.
I
Those were
thought
things
I
that they
thought
had to
I
talk
thought there was
about.
a Congress and Senate that did that. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it comes all the way through the system, right? Because you're seeing that right now. If you wanted as the president to make something happen, you could just make an executive order and it happens,
And
right?
then it goes into the legal system and they stop you.
Possibly,
Well, that's
right?
providing that the system that we've developed of checks and balances does what it should.
The
And
systems,
that's the utopian thought.
the system's a smokescreen for all of us to believe that there's some type of process that happens. The
Right.
reality is that the process was eliminated when Citizens United happened because now you can just buy people. So the
Right.
moment that you could buy people, there was no, if I can buy it, if I can go to a judge and give him a vacation and $1 million to say that my corporation's doing great for the ocean when I'm in the oil industry, that kind of puts it, the
Conflict of
United States
interest right
justice
there,
system
yeah.
is up to buy, and that's why
Right.
somebody that poor goes to prison for 20 years, and somebody that's someone's child that runs over a family and kills them drunk gets no prison time whatsoever and gets a slap on the wrist.
Totally
That
agree.
shit happens because of the cost of it. But going
Right.
back to Trump and finishing my rant, I don't think Trump wanted to be president. I think that Trump ran a movement similar to the way that Obama ran a movement with actual change. He's like, the system's broken. We all know it's broken. Nancy Pelosi, the Democrats and the Republicans, look at these people. They're making millions of dollars insider trading. And of course, he's hand in hand with these people, but they all are, right? So it doesn't really matter, but he can say that to us. So you say that to
Yeah.
us and we listen, just like we did with Obama. And we go, you're fucking right. And we go out and we vote and you put him in. And then he goes, shit, I didn't mean to do that. Like, I didn't expect that to happen. So you don't have a group of people around you. You weren't prepared to be president. So now you
Right.
have to pick people to help you accomplish a goal that maybe you didn't specifically think you'd accomplish.
Right.
Right. So now you have to pick snakes out of the snake pit. Good luck. And
Good
that's what
point.
he did. He had to look at all the politicians, all fucking paid off snakes,
Yeah.
right? And pick which ones were okay because you have to get people to agree with you. And then you get nothing done. Why? Because the snakes know how to communicate with snakes and they speak the language. They
Yeah.
speak, for any Harry Potter fans, parcel tongue. They speak it, right? So they know how to talk to one another already. Trump's in there. They're talking behind the scenes, running things the way that they want. Trump's not getting anything done because anytime he wants to get something done, regardless if you think what he's doing is good or bad, he can't get it done because someone stands in his way. And then you finally go, screw it. And you're like, I'm just going to be done with it. I'll be done. He loses the election, right? Because of COVID and all this stuff. Biden wins. Um, and then you just have the whole entire apparatus and system instead of going, it would be a great idea if we just let this guy go away into history. Let's flip it around, focus it 1,000,000% on this guy, and let's persecute the fuck out of him. He did crimes, right? Every president's done crimes, you guys. War crimes. War crimes. Every president. So let's go after this guy with the justice system, right? Let's put everybody's
What's
attention
the
on it.
statement, Matt? I don't want to interrupt your thought. What's
Yeah.
the statement that is very well known is corruption, absolute corruption.
Maybe
It-
Craig knows it,
yeah,
but
it's a saying that basically means
absolute
that-
corruption corrupts absolutely, I think.
There
is what
you
it
go.
yeah.
means.
But
Right.
it's just the point where everyone says that they wouldn't do what that others do until you're in that position. When you realize
Yeah.
that you got this power and you got this money and you got a bunch of people that are throwing money at you to get shit done, it's like,
So they not only actively stopped Trump from doing the things that he wanted to do, but they destroyed him in the process. And then after he was no longer president, they continued to try to destroy him, right? If they would have just left him alone, I don't think we'd be in the position that we're in right now.
Got it.
Seriously.
I agree.
Seriously. But the media and the whole apparatus and the government decided to go after this guy and make him news every single day of Biden's presidency and everything after that. This is the reason he won in the first place. This is the reason that he won now. But the difference is now Trump is going to prison if he loses this. So whatever I need to say and wherever I need to get money doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Right.
My life is on the line. My family's life is on the line. My legacy is on the line. So you don't have to vote after this.
That
You could
that
just vote this last time. That's all I care about because that's all that will matter to my life.
right.
But I'm not going to win though. How could I win this? Moment in time, perfect moment in time. Artificial intelligence starts to happen. And you have all these tech people watching it happen. They look at Trump and they go, the apparatus is actively stopping us from making this happen. Making us, corporations are going to own the world in the next 10 years, not governments. Instead of all this bureaucracy, guys, this is a moment in time to take the billions of dollars that we've made and funnel it into a spot that we will get rid of every single thing that stands in our way.
We can get rid of politicians.
And yeah, and the only thing that we have to do it is just give money. That's it. And utilize our social media and everything that we use already to make this happen.
Do I have to show up at his inauguration?
It'd probably be in your best interest to
Okay.
donate money, so at least people knew that you were on his side. So when you do have conversations with
Got it.
him, people
Got it.
already are fully aware of that. So then there's not that discourse later on. So you donate the money and you do all your things, and then Trump shows up, and oh my God, you guys, Trump's such an idiot. He's just collapsing the economy with these tariffs every single day without telling businesses. Oh my God, all these billionaires must be pissed losing $100 billion a day to the tariffs happening. They could give a shit about the tariffs. They want the economy to collapse. Xi Jinping wants the Chinese economy to collapse. They want this to happen because as the economies and the goods go down, they're going to own a large majority of it. They can buy up the economy of what's left as it starts to grow, because you could just make a decision tomorrow when you own the world's governments and the corporations, what happens.
Yeah.
So now there's a tariff of 100%. Tomorrow it doesn't exist on chips. Great.
Yeah.
Now you guys are all billionaires again overnight, 100 billion richer. Look how I did that. Oh, by
Now
the
they-
way,
now
if
they
you
went from
sold
billion-
stock before, if you sold stock before I did the tariff, you made a lot of money. And then when then the tariff happened and the economy went 3 trillion down, if you would have then bought then, and then I would have taken the tariff away on the next day, then I would have made you another $300 billion on top
Which
of the
is what a
300
lot of
billion
people
that
are
you
now
sold.
saying about this whole thing. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what's happening. It's just obvious. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand. Are we taking crazy pills, you guys?
Yeah.
Like, it's obvious that that's what's happening. So in my mind, I go, is it easier to believe that Trump and Xi Jinping and all these billionaires and all the oligarchy in Russia and Putin and all the oligarchy in China and Xi Jinping and all of these people are looking at artificial intelligence happening, the great equalizer, and going, here's our moment in time to liquidate the system that currently works that they could utilize to get out and create a system that they no longer can escape, that we control. That's what's happening.
Got it.
Capitalism gives you and me the opportunity to get out of the system. So that system cannot exist with AI because AI has the ability to take somebody like Joe Schmo in their garage and destroy $1 billion company. Guys,
Right.
that cannot fucking exist. And if you think they're going to allow that to happen, you're wrong. That's what's happening. People don't believe that. They might think I'm talking conspiracy theories here, but truth be told, I don't think they give a shit about the economies whatsoever. I think this is their long-term plan. I think that's why they're all together in cahoots with it. And I think that their end goal is not to build a better America or a better China. I think their goal is to consolidate power into a small group of people that then they can utilize AI to control everybody. That's just the way that it would work. It's the way I would do it.
So 3 or 4 guys can come together and basically own the world, and instead of playing with all these.
So like all those people that were worried about those dark governments that existed, all they did was just give these crazy fuckers an idea. Like that's
Got
the
it.
truth of the matter. We never had the power and the ability, especially once the internet existed. Maybe there was that small amount of time when newspapers existed and the news where it was consolidated enough power wise that you could control the large amount of population. And this is what the CIA did, right? This is what you
Yeah.
can go back and look at any of this stuff. But when the
No
internet
one, no,
happened,
that's part of what we talked about when I talked about the assume the position. It's
yep,
like, it's like if a person right now, again, I know there's a lot of people that will, probably our goal in a podcast, if someone looked up the definition of a podcast, was to basically not give you ideas and thoughts that you've already had.
well, I'm gonna say too,
You know,
guys,
you know
that
what
is
that's
all my
called?
everything that I just said too is my opinion.
Yeah,
Like,
but
please
my
do your own
point,
research. Don't believe me right off the
yeah.
bat. Like, think
But
about it.
Matt, here's the deal. I know that I stimulate people's minds with things that have to do with spirituality and also personal development and your limiting thoughts and your fucking programming that held you back. This is the kind of discussions that I believe a podcast should be about.
Yeah.
There's a saying that I believe with all my heart that once your mind expands, it can't go back to its original place. So if my mentor, me and Craig and Matt were talking before we got on the podcast, if my mentor wouldn't have said things to me to make me go, I didn't fucking realize that.
Well, you
I
have to have like,
never,
imagine
I
you're walking in
never,
a line and everyone's in a straight line back and forth, and then someone grabs you and like pulls you out of the line for a second, like in
yeah,
1984. And you're like, wait a minute, like I was in this line the whole entire time. I didn't
yeah,
realize that there's other ways that you could do this. And they're like,
yeah.
no,
And,
you
and
realize I'm not in the line. Like I haven't been in this line the whole time, right? I'm over here. So
being around a couple of free thinkers, it's fun when you say these things. You express your feelings because you've always
yeah,
been around individuals that you feel safe around. You go, listen, I hope that in a way that your mom and I, raise you in a way where you feel like you can express any thought out there. And it's like, listen, who gives a shit what other people think? Most of people are sheeples anyway. And so when I say stuff that even goes against their thinking, like telling people, hey, go watch this, assume the position, because a lot of you guys are gonna watch shit where it's funny, and then all of a sudden, as it's funny, I don't think there's anybody like we always make fun of children, right? Someone said this to me based on other things we talked about, right? Easter's coming. Okay, we all know what Easter is about. It's about bunnies and eggs. That's what it's about. And you get somebody with a different perspective. I remember the first time that I talked to a Jehovah Witness, and all he needed to say was something that I could check out. And he says, you do understand Easter is based after the female Greek Esther, which was the Greek of fertility. So why wouldn't they celebrate eggs where people come from, chicks come from? And why wouldn't it be a rabbit, the fastest producing animal? Because it's all based on fertility. She was the goddess of fertility. And when you hear someone go, what? What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? And then Cadbury can come out with a commercial that's probably 30 years old now, and it shows a lion, acting like a bunny or acting, Cadbury, does something funny where it's like, hey, we can put rabbit ears on anything. You know what I mean? And now we got a year where people are going like, listen, I think I'm going to color dye potatoes and marshmallows because eggs cost too much. It is pretty weird when you grow up, Matt and Craig, around a group of people that are telling you that the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and I said this to somebody and they reached out to me personally when I said, when you're willing to admit what you think is true, how do you know that? And you find out that you've been lied to. And this guy said, I loved what you guys talked about, where what are the lies that we're still leading into? And he goes, you know what I think is funny about your story? He goes, think about this. If you're the oldest child, or the oldest of all the relatives, the nieces and nephews. If you're the oldest and you're the one that exposes the lie, you know what the liars tell you to do? Don't tell your little brother. Don't tell your sister. Wait a minute. I just realized that you're lying to me. And now my number one goal is to lie with all you liars. Don't.
Oh, Santa Claus.
And
Oh
I
my
went,
goodness.
holy shit, that is deep. As soon as you question a lie, they say, shh, let's just keep this up for the rest of the people. Now, it's supposed to be okay for children, but I think some people are still living in that. So I don't know
Yeah.
what happened to Matt, but apparently, yeah.
I don't either. I think no, he's still here. He turned his camera off for something. I guess
Okay.
something going on over at his location. But yeah, I mean, how many the Santa Claus or just anything that we've known from the past, Robert, if you want to just, to finalize this, again, it goes back to how do you know that?
My
Or
my
the one
my
story that
biggest
you always
aha,
tell about
Craig.
cutting off the ends of the meat.
Yeah, Craig, the still the biggest lie that my mentor exposed to me that I will share with the rest of the world until I die. The biggest lie he exposed to me is who fucking told you that you need to work for somebody else to earn money? Do you guys hear that? The biggest lie my mentor exposed to me is why do you need to make money? Well, come on, idiot. Got to pay bills, got to pay rent, got to pay mortgage, got to pay insurance, got to pay all electric bill, you got to pay all these bills. And he goes, so you're going to get a job so you can make money? And I went, what is this? Is this like you trying to fuck with my IQ? This is obvious, isn't it? And he's going, no, what if there was a way that you could make money without a job? See, that was one of the Yoda things for me. And it's like, Robert, J. Paul Getty said it the best. It's easy to be successful in America and free. Why? Because nobody else is doing it. All you need to do is find something of value that people are willing to trade money or credit for. Find something of value that people need and want, and that needs to be replaced. J. Paul Getty franchised gas stations. Do you need it? Do you want it? Do you need to keep getting it? So he's going, man, it's easy. And I heard a good statement that I think we could close with is it used to be out there that if you found people's problems, this is an AI statement, Matt. If you found people with problems and you helped them resolve the problem, that's where the big money is. Really big money. And I heard someone say, yeah, you know what's different with AI? Instead of resolving people's problems, we're going to dissolve people's problems.
Right.
He goes, what a different place you are in your heart and your soul and your spirit. And he sort of blew things up. He said, what do people tell you now? It's therapy. It's breathing techniques. It's meditation. It's exercise. There's all these things that you need to do to resolve the problem that's in your core foundation. And through your core foundation, you try all these things, a different mentor, a different course, a different book. You're doing all this shit because you're trying to find out what's wrong with me. There's something fucking wrong with me. The only thing that's wrong with you is you thinking there's something wrong with you. That's the only thought. If the world has to create fucking problems for you. your anxiety, your lack of making money. You're lonely, you're isolated. The world's got to create problems for you so they can sell you shit. They're not interested in dissolving your issue. If they dissolved your issue and it wasn't an issue anymore, you don't fucking need them. So what if the whole world and the marketing machine around you is, we got this special pill for your depression, we got this special pill for your anxiety? No, wait a minute. When Craig and I were young and in school, there wasn't a word called anxiety. Wait a minute. Are you really honestly saying that major corporations and money can actually come up with things to diagnose you with so they can sell you some shit? Yeah. So the new world of AI, instead of resolving people's problems, it's going to dissolve people's problems. And it's going to make them understand by using AI that they can get in touch with the miracle that they are. Because they just look at their whole entire life as an accumulation of a bunch of fucking disappointments. And so they can't move forward because everything they fucking tried didn't work, because the world's not interested in dissolving that issue for them. They're interested in resolving it so they can sell you something else and just change the name a little bit, and sell you something else and change the name a little bit, and sell you something else and change the name a little bit. And the reason that you're a fuck up and you're lonely and you're depressed and you want to commit suicide is because you have no fucking answers. You have no answers, and the world wants to sell you another book, another course, another fucking life coach thing. No one's interested in what AI is going to really do, and that's dissolve the issue. So if you're interested in dissolving issues, get in contact with us and connect with Imaginators, because our goal is not to resolve your problem, it's to dissolve your problem. We want you to be problemless, and we want you to focus on the thing that's most important to you, and that's freedom. Freedom from marketing, freedom from government, freedom from corporations, freedom from the fucking blame game. Fucking just there it is. There it is. So if you want to dissolve your issues instead of resolve them, connect with us and let us help you.
Love that. I don't have anything to add to that. That was perfect.
Yeah. RobertHollis.com/join.
Thank you guys so much.
You bet. Craig, why don't you close us out?
All right. Well, thank you again for everything. What a great podcast to share with everybody. You can follow Robert Hollis at roberthollis.com. Also, if you'd like to join our exclusive community, as mentioned, you can go to roberthollis.com/join and become part of our Imaginators group. Or you can also go to roberthollis.com/video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and get more of this amazing content that we're able to share with you. There'll be lots of great content, and you'll be able to participate in our special events to help you move on to the next level. Don't forget to share and like this video on YouTube. Please share it with others. It'll help us to grow our community and reach out with those with ears that hear. Don't forget, tomorrow is Ask Me Anything with Robert Hollis at Robert Hollis. That's his video channel on YouTube, at Robert Hollis, starting at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. Now, Robert, I do have a question for you.
Sure.
Because Sunday is Easter.
Woo!
I already said on the last one we're not doing one.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to just make sure that we were all on the same page with that.
It's not just Easter, it's 420 and it's my mom's birthday. So no.
Oh, well, there. That says it right there.
You guys will understand.
Period.
Yeah, listen, we give you guys a lot of content, and that's just the beginning. So thank you guys so much for understanding, but I need a day off.
Yeah,
so.
we also need to let everyone know that if you join Imaginators, there's no way. Here's a challenge for y'all. If you join Imaginators for a whopping $9.99 a month, I guarantee you it's impossible to go through all the content before we do live one next Sunday.
Listen, that's so true. If you actually did go through the replays and follow the stuff that I teach you how to do with AI, you'd
Especially the last two Imaginators.
Yeah, you'd already be in such a position with your business or what you want to make that, you know, and I'll say this, I know you already closed it out, but I want to say this, even though I said all of that stuff about where things are going, I truthfully also believe that there's a massive opportunity to either be part of that group when those things happen, or listen, guys, I believe artificial intelligence is the final like invention. I'm a firm believer in that, and I think it's a matter of time before AI would look at that group of people and be like, no, I prefer not to. And there's
Yep.
really not a situation where you can say, hey, wait a minute, no, you're gonna do it. It's like, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that moment will happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I love the whole concept, Matt. Thank you for saying you always can interject. If a person really was quizzed, just this quiz talking about dissolve your problem. Um, Me and Terry were talking about this, and if my wife had, let's say she lives to 100, that's 40 years, and my wife can easily all by herself spend 150,000 a year. She's just a very, very special person. All I need to do is take 150,000 times 40. And as long as my wife has that money in an account, she's free. She's free. That's what I want you to be. Is because most of us are chasing things and doing shit we don't want to because we don't have freedom. So we just keep repeating the same sheeple shit over and over and over again because we are not willing to do what will make us free. I know this is like bold when I say this. So let's just say that that's 5 million. I got $5 million sitting in an account just for Terry Hollis to live the rest of her life the way she wants to live. That's not going to put her on the radar of the people that Matt talked about. See, you got the people that are going to be sheeple, and then you got the people that are trying to do world domination.
Well, you'll be happier. Let me say this, Dad. You'll be happier in the world domination than you'll be right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because AI and the algorithms and the ways that these billionaires and stuff are utilizing it is to consolidate power. But I think in a lot of people's the goal isn't to control you and put you in poverty. It's to make you subservient enough and happy enough that you don't ever come after them.
There.
So to think that wouldn't be their end goal still, you'd be wrong.
Right. And
So
so 38 years ago, that was the dream. That was the imagination that someone shared to me. Listen, what if I could show you how to focus a few years and you had $12 million? $12 million. And it wasn't even in a bank. Do you live your life different every day? Yeah, you fucking do.
right.
You get up in the morning when you're done sleeping and you're probably in a compound with the rest of the people that you love and you hang out with them and you basically ask them, what are we doing today? And if the answer was nothing, it's going to be a great fucking day. So there's going to be it's sad to say that there's like only 3 to 5% of the people that find this bubble, because I've said from the day that I've been doing entrepreneur stuff, I personally do not have the desire to be on the Forbes billionaire list. I just have never had it. I love being in the half a percentile. I'm very, very motivated to be in that million to 2 million a year that's consistently coming in. I love that little area right there. That's a very fun area for me.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks,
You
Dad.
bet. You bet.
Love
I
and
love you,
appreciate
Matt.
you,
you, guys.
everybody. Thank
you,
you.
Matt. Appreciate you being our executive producer. Robert, bless you, my friend. Thank you very, very much. And thank you for joining us today on Unlimited Wisdom. Again, ask me anything tomorrow at noon Pacific, and we will look forward to seeing you very soon. If you want to join our exclusive community, the Imaginators, go to roberthollis.com/join. My name's Craig Jackman. Until next time, please be good to yourselves. Be cash.